продолжении нашего сегодняшнего дня позвольте еще раз. Так, друзья, всем привет, мы здесь. Так, вот я, наверное, туда машу, да. Позвольте, пожалуйста, представить и пригласить теперь в наше общее дискуссионное пространство, и мы сейчас познакомимся все, господина Асиера. Прошу вас. И, наверное, я скажу, что сегодня у нас в Центре Дружбы, миростроительства и толерантности, созданного в рамках проекта «Трансграничный многосторонний диалог в интересах толерантности и мира» при поддержке Европейского Союза, фонда имени Конрада Аденауэра и реализуемого национальными партнерами, это экологическое движение «Биом Кыргызстан», общенациональное движение «Юксалиш Узбекистан» и гендер-развитие Таджикистан, будет проходить в продолжении после дебатного мастер-класса и турнира дискуссия с господином Асиером. Вот. И сегодня у нас на связи Ферганский государственный университет, Центр Дружбы, толерантности и миростроительства. Привет, ребят.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to get for the time being. No, thank you very much for having this. My name is Asier Santilian. I am working for the Service for Foreign Policy Instruments, FBI. We have a number of projects in Central Asia, facilitate spaces like this one for building tolerance and building also bridges among the different. And I'm here today. I'm going to learn more about the work that you are doing, the work that and other projects that are supported by us. Just to give you an example, this morning I was together with International Alert in Aravan, and then after with UNICEF in Aravan as well, visiting first a primary school and then after a secondary school, and having also the possibility to speak with some students from the secondary school. And it was very interesting because there were many questions and many issues raised about the Fergana Valley in general, about the situation in Osh, Aravan, Kyrgyzstan, and the world. And just to give you a little bit information about my background, I'm a lawyer, but I'm also a doctor in international public law and international relations. And I have a master on project management. I have been working for the European Union 14 years already. Before I worked for UN, for the OSCE, and also for a number of NGOs, including some NGOs in Spain. I'm coming from Spain, but I'm coming from a region that is the Basque Country, which is in the northern part of Spain, part is also in France. We speak a different language apart from Spanish. And well, so sometimes we can discuss about also what means multilingual environments. It was very interesting for me to listen to the discussions that you were having about patriotism, nationalism, language, etc., because those are discussions that we also had at home at one point. Thank you.
Да, спасибо большое. Спасибо вам большое, да. Ну вот. Вот. И, наверное, я приглашаю всех нас к дискуссии совместной. Вот. И для начала нашей совместной дискуссии вот, я бы хотел задать, наверное, первый вопрос на правах модератора сегодня. Вот. Вы знаете, мой вопрос будет, наверное, такой более связанный с вопросом миростроительства. Вот. И я знаю, что Европейский Союз имеет очень много программ вот, в Центральной Азии по вопросам миростроительства. Как раз то, что мы говорили. Вот. И я хотел бы у вас спросить, какие это программы, какие интересы они преследуют, и как мы можем включаться ну, вот, на уровне вот, нашей молодежи в данные программы. Вот, наверное, у меня для начала такой вопрос будет.
Well, our programs in Central Asia, they are quite well, they are touching many different issues. We have programs like yours, working with youth, working on building tolerance among the youth, particularly in Fergana Valley, because of the tensions that at one point existed first between Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan, and after now between Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. We also have projects we had, and we have still, linked with the prevention of tensions, at least violence, during the electoral process in Kyrgyzstan. So facilitating the access to information and supporting independent media and independent broadcasters to produce information about the electoral process before, during, and after. We also have projects supporting the Afghans that had to flee Afghanistan and that they are today in Tajikistan and in Uzbekistan, including projects or actions with UNICEF targeting youth, but not only those from Afghanistan, but also those younger that live in communities that are receiving Afghans. And we are working with that in Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. And we have been working for years, and perhaps we are going to do it again with Internews on prevention of violence extremism, but from the angle of having access to information. We were funding for years the Tritochka process and the hackathon that they were organizing, and activities like that have been covering the 5 countries in Central Asia. And why we do that? Because at the end, having a stable Central Asia is also in our interest, because there are already so many conflicts ongoing in the world, and nobody wants to have another one. So since we are working in Central Asia, we are partnering with Central Asian countries. We are together, for example, in the OSCE. All the European Union countries and all countries from the Central Asia are part of the OSCE. So we are partners at international level there. And we are sharing the same interests, the same, let's say, cultural values based on democracy, human rights, freedom of media, freedom of speech. In some places works better, in some others there is always a space for improvement, including among us. But your countries are a special partner for us. And because of that, we are working here. And we are also supporting some of the countries with issues related with police, with the return, for instance, of families from foreign terrorist fighters that were in Syria and Iraq. We are working now with UN and with the with the Kazakh authorities in Kyrgyzstan, also with the children in Uzbekistan and in Tajikistan, in the process of facilitating resocialization and rehabilitation of those families, majority children and women that are coming back from Iraq and Syria. So we are doing many things, as I said before, but always looking at facilitating, let's say, the stabilization, or at least preventing further crisis situations in these countries. This is what FBI, my service, does. The European Union has other programs as well. They are working on education. Other colleagues are working on education, on water management, on issues related with drugs and security. We do a number of things in these countries. But FBI, my service, what it does particularly is to focus on crisis prevention and crisis management, if there is any, like in the case of Afghanistan.
Thank you for your speech, Mr. Asier. I have 2 questions because I'm really interested in this theme, because I'm a student of the Faculty of International Relations. And the first question is that you have already told that you have the experience for 40 years in this sector, and 14. Oh, I'm sorry. You have 14. It's for us. It's really long period, like to get the experience. Okay. The first question is, what programs do you have? I mean, for the use of Central Asia, especially for Kyrgyzstan, for Kazakhstan. I mean, internship programs, maybe some exchange programs. I don't know. For what opportunities do we have right now? Because you are like specialists of this sector, like that's why I'm interested. First question. And the second question is, you have already told that crisis prevention, like you're working on in this sector, and you know, in Kyrgyzstan and border in Tajikistan, between the Tajikistan, we have some problems, such like water problems, and you have the experience to solve like such problems in Europe, in other countries. And what can you suggest to this country? Like I know that it's a little bit difficult, but you're specialists, and that's why I'm interested. And I will be so glad if you like tell any solutions to this problem. Thank you.
Concerning the first question about programs related with youth, we have in the European Union, we have a Erasmus Mundus. Yes, and you know it. Erasmus Mundus is a very interesting program, and it has it opens the possibility for students all over the world to do exchanges with and internships. Let's say even in European universities, and not only European universities. Also, you can make exchanges with other universities in other parts of the world. We know that there are limited spaces and availabilities. I mean, we cannot cover all the requests, unfortunately. But if I would be you, I would try to engage with Erasmus Mundus, because it's really something interesting. When I was doing my post baccalaureate studies, I did, and I got a scholarship for Erasmus. Yes, I did a second semester of my diploma in Germany, and I was really amazing having the chance to change the country, going somewhere else, exchange with students from all over the world, and even studying in a different language. And it was really very interesting. So whoever is interested in this program, I will really, I mean, it's very easy. You do Google, you get inside. It's very easy to get information. Then to get selected, I mean, I'm not going to lie, it's a difficult competition, but it's really worth it to try. And concerning the second language, concerning the second question, I'm already tired. This is my second debate today. What to say? I think that I'm coming from a region that is bordering France. You know, yesterday I had a very similar conversation with other youth, and they made me the same question. And I told them, look, now is not a problem because both countries were in the European Union, Schengen system, the border doesn't exist anymore. So we can move freely from one side of the border to the other. But until the 90s, and the 90s for me is yesterday, we really had problems. And we had even shooting in the border, and particularly in the sea border. I mean, the line of demarcation of the sea belonging to Spain and the sea belonging to France. And even some of our fishermen that were used to fish for centuries in waters that suddenly, or at one point of France understood that they were theirs, but we were still claiming that they were ours. And then there were fightings between the French Navy and our fishermen, right? How it was solved? But it's not easy because decisions, they need to be taken in the capitals. But the capitals, what they need to do is also to ask and to listen to those communities that are really there. because Spain, without listening the fishermen, couldn't have a position to defend and to propose in front of Paris. And it was the same for Paris, because the French Navy was there to defend the rights of the French fishermen, that, by the way, both were Basque like me, the French and the Spanish fishermen, belonging to the same community, the same language, etc., but in different countries. And at the end, the issue was solved because of that. I mean, they listened, they really had a number of consultations ongoing with the Association of Fishermen from France, Fishermen from Spain, and they reached a common position. And at the end, well, then it was easier when we got all of us within the European Union and within the Schengen system, as the borders just disappeared. But it was tense. It was really tense for decades.
Mr. As you said that in European Union, I mean in a Schengen zone, there are many methods of working with youth. And which method we can bring from European Union working methods to Central Asian states? Because I also was in the Czech Republic in a West Bohemian University by academic mobility program. And I just would like to invite our youth, I mean Uzbeks youth, Tajik youth, come to our countries, and our students should go to Uzbekistan and Tajikistan. We should develop our relationship much closer than yes, and which methods we don't have ordinarily like in the European Union now.
I think that you already have the answer. You already told me the question and the answer. Since you told me that what we have and what you don't have. And to be honest, I think that one of the programs that it is today most successful within the European Union is the Erasmus program. Erasmus Mundus is for third countries that are not part of the European Union, but exist the Erasmus just for European Union countries. And it has been working for more than maybe 30 years already. And it has facilitated the mobility of students between different universities. Last year, I was, for instance, in Horok, in Pamir, in Tajikistan. I'm visiting the university that the Hakan Foundation has there. And the Hakan has another university here in Kyrgyzstan too. And both universities are open to students from all over the region. And they have teachers also from all over the region, and even from other places like Pakistan, even it was a teacher from Iran, from UK, US, etc. And somehow what Hakan is doing for private, it's a private university, it's not a public, but it's something similar to what we are doing with Erasmus. And these initiatives, they are very useful because people at the end, we know each other. You go to university and then you have an interaction with a student from another country. And at the end, you realize that your dreams, your problems, your goals, and your challenges are the same or very similar. And the difference can be the language. But since you go somewhere else, and usually it's a third country, you also learn the language there. And those that go to university, at the end, they are also learning your language. And then that bridge between a communication bridge is at one point broken because we all can speak, let's say, a language or two or three that facilitates the communication among at that time. In my case, I was young at that time. Now I'm not, but I'm still speaking a number of languages that also facilitates me. For instance, now I'm living in Austria. I am not living in Spain anymore. I left Spain 25 years ago. I go on holidays, but I can live in other countries, so no problem. I speak 4 official languages of the European Union, so I can live in different countries.
First, I want to say we are all people. We are all people live in one planet, in our one Earth. Of course, we live in one planet. What our but our planet is divided into around 200 countries and many regions like Europe and Central Asia. And I want to say, what is the main goal of European Union in study and revolution of Central Asian conflicts?
Sorry, the main goal on
revolution of conflicts in Central Asia.
resolution. O sea, to resolve.
Resolve.
We don't do. We are not involved on resolution. We are involved on prevention. And well, I think that for everybody it's interesting to prevent a conflict anywhere. We have a kind of internal obligations on how also to work with, as I said before, with countries that are our partner. We have a strategy that it was built together with the Central Asian countries, which is called the EU Strategy for Central Asia, where a number of priorities were selected together with the 5 countries of the Europe of Central Asia, including consultation with civil society. So not only with the governments, but also with the civil society. Civil society includes NGOs, includes associations of youth, includes also universities, trade unions, and associations of private entrepreneurs, companies, etc. And within those priorities, to work on prevention of crisis, it was identified as one of the potential priorities, to work together. We have a number of experiences that we can extrapolate, let's say. I mean, it's the European situation is not like the Central Asian, but I think that we can learn from each other. And following that strategy, we are working here. So it's not that the European Union has a number of priorities and interests. The strategy was built together with you, not to you, but with you, with the countries and your representatives. And those are a number of priorities that are in the interest of the both groups, the European Union on one side and Central Asia on the other side.
Хорошо. Факультет естествознания, ОЖГУ, старший преподаватель Буранов Эдуард Шахтерович. Я вот у господина Асиера хотел спросить такой более практичный вопрос, наверное, такой приземистый, как мы говорим. Вот у нас студенты, вот рядом сидят студенты наши, они обучаются на данный момент по программам бакалавриата, а затем дальше по программе магистратуры будут обучаться. И вот у меня такой вопрос. Наши дипломы вот, по программе бакалавриата и программе магистратуры в Европе у вас признаются? Они смогут, наши выпускники, найти работу у вас в Европе?
To be honest, I don't know. But usually this is something that is based on reciprocity. So if your diplomas are not valid in Europe, usually our diplomas are not valid here. But honestly, I don't know. I mean, this is not my area of work. No, I don't know. Sorry.
Ну, понятно, ясно. Просто мы слышали, что в Европе юридически признаются дипломы магистров и бакалавров только европейских стран. А, допустим, дипломы стран Средней Азии там не признаются.
One thing, I don't know if it is like that about Central Asian countries, but I can assure you that the European Union accepts diplomas from third countries where there is an agreement on reciprocity of those diplomas. So just to give you an example, before working here, I was working in Latin America, and I know that there is reciprocity, and the majority of the diplomas from Latin America and from the States, from Canada, from Australia, from other countries in Asia as well, they are accepted. But to give you another example, to recognize a European diploma in Brazil is a headache. So since it is very difficult to get a European diploma being recognized in Brazil, to get a diploma from Brazil recognized in Europe is also difficult, because it's usually a matter of reciprocity. It's agreeing of a number of standards, both sides, and if it is agreed in one place, usually it is agreed in the other one, but it's a matter of negotiation and discussion.
Ну да, просто когда у нас вводилась болонская система образования, нам говорили так, что если мы войдем в эту систему образования, значит, наши дипломы будут признаваться чуть ли не по всему миру. А теперь вот уже столько лет прошло, что мы работаем по этой системе. В результате выясняется, что наши дипломы не котируются в Европе. И зачем тогда нужно было входить в эту систему? Вот вопрос.
Спасибо. У меня тут вопрос к господину Асиеру. Значит, вот мы все здесь собрались чисто по интересу, там подебатировать. Нам это нравится, это для нас как бы хобби. И мы бы хотели узнать, в Европе или в европейских странах каких-нибудь, есть ли какие-либо подобные команды, и можем ли мы с ними как-то встретиться, там, турнир организовать, потому что нам интересно студенческие дебаты проводить, обмениваться опытом, так сказать.
I left the university a long time ago, and I'm not working with the university. That's why I couldn't answer the first question, and unfortunately, I cannot answer this one. I guess that there are, because this is something that has been included at the university level in the last decade, or even before. But when I was at the university, I was asked before, did you have it? I didn't. Just to give you an example, I never did a debate at the university. And I currently think that it's a pity, because being a lawyer and having these kind of debates prepares you to be in front of a court and be able to defend your clients. That was my case as a lawyer, but I never received this kind of opportunity. So I guess that European universities, they do have debate clubs, but I'm afraid that I'm not the correct person to ask about it. Sorry.
Господин Асиер, вот у меня такой вопрос, да, почему Европейскому Союзу, да, интересно вот программы в Центральной Азии, да, то есть они финансируют программы такие, как миростроительство в Центральной Азии, все такое, да, цель этого того, что вы так финансируете в нас, да, то есть получается.
We do it worldwide. We are not doing it only here. We are doing it everywhere. I mean, I worked before in Latin America, as I told you before. I was doing a very similar work in Colombia, where, among other things, we facilitated the contact between the guerrilla and the government to reach an agreement, a peace agreement, with other actors, but we were also there. We facilitated the implementation later on of the agreements, and we are still doing it. We are doing that in Africa. I have colleagues working in Nairobi that they are covering the east coast of Africa, colleagues in Nigeria that are covering the west and the center. I have a colleague working in Tunis that is doing something similar in Libya. Colleagues in Lebanon that are working with Syria, with Iraq, with Turkey, with Jordan. And I have also colleagues in Bangkok that are working in the rest of Asia, including, for instance, for years we were supporting the negotiations and even the peace agreements later on between the Bangsamoro guerrillas and the Filipino government. So we do it worldwide. Why? Honestly, I don't know. I mean, because sometimes I'm also thinking about why are we doing it? But we are doing it.
Я хотел задать такой простой вопрос. Когда был Карабахский конфликт, Европейский Союз сделал платформу для представителей Армении и Азербайджана в формате переговоров после окончания этой войны. У нас, к счастью, такой большой войны нет, но у нас есть такой маленький конфликт с Таджикистаном. У меня вот такой вопрос. Может ли Европейский Союз сделать платформу, на которой могут встретиться наши таджикские и кыргызстанские представители? Это было бы для нас очень полезно, я считаю.
Well, between Armenia and Azerbaijan, we are still working. Just to give you an example, lately we have been facilitating the release of some of the prisoners of war or from Armenia that were detained in Azerbaijan, even and the transport was paid by us and even the connection. So we are still working there. But why are we working there? Among other things, because both governments, they are supporting also the work that we do there. So when we engage in facilitating the dialogue, or at least the contact between Baku and Yerevan, is because both governments, they are asking, or at least requesting our support. I'm sure that if tomorrow we get a clear request from both governments, from the Kyrgyz government and the government in Tajikistan, if they think that we can help them to facilitate a solution to the situation today at the border, I mean, we will be there to support.
So it will be my second question. I just would like to ask, are there any peace building program in the European Union space? And could we have a chance participation in this program? Because we would like to participate here, I mean, in local countries, in European Union also. It will be give for us a great practice, and of course it will be have a good internship for us and for European Union use. Thank you.
We have programs at a university level, and even some of them, they are not only including European universities. There are some of them including universities from outside of the European Union, like a program on international humanitarian aid, that also touches negotiations, mediation, and peace building. And there is another program on human rights that includes a network of European universities, but also American universities, some in Africa, if I'm not mistaken. And just to give you an example, I think it was last week, I had a meeting with the rector of the OSCE Academy in Kyrgyzstan, and he is trying to get the academy in that network to facilitate the, let's say, to adapt the European program on human rights to the reality of Central Asia. We are open. I mean, he is already discussing with the European Union, but as I said before, it's not universities, is not my area of work. But there are, let's say, negotiations and already talks about it ongoing.
I get it. Thank you very much.
Вы занимаетесь предупреждением, ну и вот конфликтами, как вы сказали, вопросами. И у меня вопрос. Какова миротворческая стратегия Евросоюза в Центральной Азии, ну и в частности в Ферганской долине?
Well, we don't have a strategy for peace building in Fergana Valley, first of all, because that is the responsibility of the states in Fergana Valley. The three of them is not ours. We are acting in Fergana Valley based on the EU strategy for Central Asia. And in the EU strategy for Central Asia, one of the areas that we are touching is stability. Other area that it has been identified as a priority is youth. And this is why we are working with you, because this is what we are doing with you through Contract Adenauer Stiftung and through BIOM. What we did in 2019 was to open a call for proposals, because since we don't have a strategy, we were asking you proposals. So in the call, we have a number, we identify the priorities, like let's say, and it was before the shootings between Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. But we already at that time, we asked, okay, there are a number of tensions ongoing. We need to work on, try to prevent something else happening. We want to work with youth, and we want to work, well, in this area. So we told the NGOs, give us ideas, right? And this was the call. So there were a number of NGOs proposing projects, and 3 of them were selected. One is the one that we are implementing today. Another one is with DVV, a German NGO, and Youth of Osh, that I was visiting yesterday. And another one, it was that now is already ended, I mean, it's finished, that it was with Search for Common Ground, that is also based in Bishkek, and it was working in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan. But mostly, I mean, this one was a little bit different because they were focusing their work on migration. Yes. And this is what we did. So we don't have a strategy. The ideas come from those that are working in the region. You may ask, but these 3 organizations are international, right? I mean, Konrad Adenauer, DVV, and Search for Common Ground. Yes, but we are obliging them, and this is an obligation that we put them. If an international NGO is asking for money, they have to have a local partner from each of the countries that they will cover. So that's why we have you, BIOM, and we have the other partners in the other 2 countries.
You know, I'm a volunteer of this project, like generation of peace in Central Asia. So right now I want to say thank you for you and for all of your people who created this center, who gave us the opportunity to develop, to collect, and to work in one project. It's a really good opportunity for you, young generation, for us. And I have the question to you that what do you think if like some of the volunteers from Kyrgyzstan, from Uzbekistan and Tajikistan, like maybe 2, maybe 3 of them, like to develop and more, like to get the new opportunities to spread that European idea, like to build the peace, internship programs for that volunteers, maybe for that people. And what do you think in this idea? Like, I'm sitting and I have the idea like this. What do you think?
No, I think that is a good idea. But if you ask me, do you have money for that? I will tell you that no, not at this moment. No, I think that definitely the exchange of experiences are in the interest of everybody. I mean, the experience that you are having here, in my opinion, I think that is very interesting also or it should be also very interesting for some European institutes or institutions that are working also with peace building. But as I said before, I mean, I left Spain 25 years ago. I went to Germany. From Germany, I went to the war in Croatia or the after war in Croatia. And I have been the majority of my life working abroad. It's true that I work for the OSCE, for UN, and now for the European Union. But I cannot tell you. Unfortunately, I'm disconnected from the academia, from the European academia. But also, I mean, more than European idea, I think that you also have the opportunity to develop your own idea. I think that is the system that we have in place in the European Union works for us because it has been developed by us. And I know that there is people that loves talking about our system and putting it as an example and so on. It's good for us. It has shortcomings like everything, but it has very positive achievements for all European countries. But it doesn't mean that it should work for you. I think that you have other kind of problems, other kind of history, and it could work in a different way. It's good for you to know about it and to learn more about it. But what is really important, I think, is that you in Central Asia develop your own model and your own system for cohabitation and for building tolerance among you. I mean, I have been traveling in 4 countries. I mean, in Turkmenistan, I've never been. No, it's not that easy to go there. But when I have the opportunity to speak with youth in the other countries of the region, not only in Kyrgyzstan, the majority are thinking like you. I mean, they are open to talk with the neighbors. They are open to learn more about the other countries. They are open to work together to build something stable and something peaceful for the whole region. So the seeds are there. You need to work a little bit, put some water, some fertilizer if possible, natural, and build something together.
Вот я хотел бы спросить у вас такой вопрос задать. Смотрите, вот Европа очень долгое время не могла там найти общий язык и вот прийти к такому уровню доверия и прозрачных границ, долгие века не могла прийти. И вот та же самая ситуация в Средней Азии. Вроде бы потомки единой нации, тюрков, но не можем прийти к согласию. Вот, исходя из вашего опыта объединения там, в единую шенгенскую зону, какие вы можете дать нам советы? Не нам, а именно таки правительством, которое возглавляет эти страны.
I can tell you what not to do. Huh? And of course, no. Please do not repeat our history because we found a common ground after provoking 2 world wars. Right? So the European Union was born after the Second World War, and it was born based on the agreements around steel, coal, and steel. The production of steel. That it was one of the main issues during the First and during the Second World War, and it was a matter of fighting for the borders. I mean, Germany got into the Czech Republic, and I'm not talking about France, I'm talking about the Czech Republic, not only Czechoslovakia at that time, not only because they were Germans there, but also because it was used to be the most industrialized part of the Austria-Hungarian Empire. And they wanted to get the industry of Czechoslovakia because they needed for their economic purposes. They went to Poland also because they wanted to get what is called in Spanish Silesia, that is shelling, where also the carbon and the steel was produced. And they did it the same with France. So, and we had to go through 2 different world wars to reach a common agreement and to agree between France, the Benelux, Germany, and Italy at that point on how to deal with a common market for steel. And this was the beginning of the European Union. So what I can tell you is, I don't know how can you do it, but please don't do it like us. I mean, it was a waste of lives, a waste of everything, and even it was a real disaster for Europe and for everybody because they were world wars.
I wonder that were there this kind of conflict zones or conflict borders before, and how they solved?
Okay, I think as I said before, and now I've been reflecting while talking. We started the European Union through steel because it was on the interest of all the countries that started the European Union at that time to have a common agreement on how to manage the production of steel, that it was really needed for building a new Europe after the Second World War, and also for the industry of the different countries. And instead of fighting for the same natural resource that there was on one hand the coal, and on the other hand, the iron to produce steel, they agreed on how to manage that, right? So at one point, the coal was on one side of the border and the iron was on the other side of the border. And everybody wanted to have both. Yes, and that's why was the Second World War, apart from other things, but basically because of that happened. Here you have water and energy. There are some countries in Central Asia that have water. There are other countries that have energy. Those having water need energy. Those having energy need water. Perhaps, and this is a wishful thinking, if your governments could reach an agreement similar to the one that we had around the steel on water and energy, perhaps it could be a good beginning for solving some of the problems that you have, at least the basic ones, or the most difficult ones. But this is a wishful thinking, you know? I mean, I just thought about it in the last 5 minutes. You make difficult questions, put difficult answers.
Здравствуйте, я хотела задать вопрос. Все ли вопросы могут быть решены путем переговоров, не доходя до войны?
I want to say yes. And I really believe that yes is the answer. But we are human beings. And we are not perfect. And apart from theory, and in theory, everything can be negotiated and everything can be agreed. The question is that when you have parties that don't want to agree and don't want to negotiate, it's very difficult to reach agreements. But in principle, yes, I believe that everything can be negotiated and everything can be agreed. And as I said at one point, I mean, in Colombia, the FARC was fighting for more than 40 years. The Colombian government, 40 years. And it was never defeated, despite the Colombian government saying that they were defeating the guerrilla. No, the guerrilla was there. They had thousands of effectives. They had weapons. They had channels to get funds and money for the weapons and for the ammunition. They reached an agreement, at least the majority of them. Not everybody left the weapons, and there are still some fightings, but the majority of FARC reached an agreement with the Colombian government after 40 years in the same country and with a lot of differences and a very different position between the government and the guerrilla. People that was killing each other for 40 years. If they could reach an agreement, I think that everybody can do it through negotiation.
Из-за того, что обещал, что такие сложные вопросы ваши, действительно, я их просто хотел чуть-чуть дополнить, если можно, два предложения сюда, что у вас вопрос очень интересный, я тоже в это верю. И мы взяли за этот проект именно потому, что я верю, что все вопросы можно решить переговорами, первое, то есть именно поэтому. Но я еще из-за того, что получил философское образование, хотел про два момента вам сказать, потому что, мне кажется, это, может быть, обогатит нашу жизнь, понимание, да. Есть философ французский, я очень люблю постструктурализм, структурализм, вот Барт. Вот, и он как раз говорил о том, что вот одна из очень важных проблем, действительно все можно решить переговорами, лишь бы они друг другу... Вот тут, мне, правда, еще и Wittgenstein, конечно, сразу же появляется, австрийский философ, но они все говорили о проблемах языка и проблемах вот только не языка, как там русского, киргизского, баскского и других, да, или грузинского, разных языков, а именно языка как понятийного аппарата. Так вот, проблема в том, что для того, чтобы договориться, надо владеть хотя бы схожими понятийными системами. Извините, его метафора Барта меня поразила когда-то. Он говорит, если к нам, это его был пример, что к нам прилетит инопланетянин и будет, пованивая и посвистывая, передавать послание вселенской какой-то мудрости, а сам будет похож на муху, то его просто прибьют. Понимаете, да? Не потому что... Вот просто потому что послание будет непонятно. Понимаете, да? То есть вот этот вот, соответственно, образование вот посланий, да, то есть как бы понятных другому, это очень сложная конструкция. Вот первое, да. Второе, что я не знаю, как вас учили, но вот говорят 3 религии из одного шатра, да, то есть, как говорится, иудаизм, христианство, наш ислам, да, то есть как бы с этими... Вот одна из проблем была, там когда-то же были, ну, в истории иудаизм пораньше, там, христианство, потом ислам, то есть в разных сочетаниях, но все время были проблемы, вы слышите эту мысль все время в разных религиях, о том, что возлюбит ближнего, там, но очень часто но в истоке там была, когда гностические секты, это сложная история, да, но, может быть, вам будет интересно ее тоже узнать, да, то есть у первых там христиан, и первых, это аналогичная история была у первых мусульман. Они говорили о том, что понять другого. Вот эта тайна понимания другого, она, наверное, самая сложная. То есть, как бы чтобы смочь посмотреть на мир, ну, хотя бы приблизительно с одной позиции. Потому что для одного хорошо, то для другого может быть совершенно по-другому. Да? И вот это место, которое мы должны научиться и строить вот эти конвертеры. Я думаю, что вот в этом смысл того, что у нас происходит. И очень рекомендую книжку вот вам. Возьмите... Вот я вам дарю просто вот синюю про общение и самопознание, потому что познаешь себя, можешь общаться с другим, и тогда и переговоры будут лучше. Но хотел просто про это вот вам тоже, извините, не удержался, но обещал помочь Асиеру. Спасибо.
Yeah, if I may, I also have one question. Thank you, Mr. Asier, for absorbing discussion. It's very interesting for us, especially talking about this relevant topic. And I want to ask you, is there any similarities between other projects that you have been implementing and you have been engaged with? If you see any similarities with this project in this that we are implementing here in Fergana Valley, what are they? And do you have any advices or suggestions that if are there any similarities, what we can do to implement this project and make it better?
I think that we are living in very complex moments, not only here, but particularly here. I mean, if you analyze a little bit the last years, we had the pandemic and still we have the pandemic. It's not gone 100%. So the borders were closed. Some they are still closed because in between there were the incidents in May 2020 and others that they are following. But in similar situations, and I will give you an example, we had a project in Colombia with the border with Ecuador, because the Colombian conflict, it was internal, but some of the guerrillas, they were acting from the Ecuadorian territory, and even in fact at one point the Colombian army was bombing even Ecuadorian territory because the main military bases of the FARC guerrilla were there. So we had a number of projects, but I remember one. And it was with one indigenous community, but one of the strongest indigenous community in both countries, in Colombia and Ecuador. And what really helped to facilitate, let's say, even though they had the same ethnic heritage, They spoke the same language. They came from the same communities, same names, surnames, etc. Because of the conflicts and how at one point they were divided. So we work on common interests. Yes. So at that point, the interest, it was the Colombian side wanting to learn more about water management, by the way, while the Ecuadorian part wanted to learn more about alternative agriculture. So we look for interest, common interests, and how to learn one from another. What helped, and unfortunately is not the case now here because it's not possible, is that they had the chance to meet together personally as well. So in the case of Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, since the borders are closed, perhaps it's a good idea to think about a meeting in a third country, like for instance in Uzbekistan. Why not? Because at the end, the personal contacts, they really matter, and they are very important also for building stability.
I have just an opinion towards this topic of peace building and preventing conflicts. We all do repeat from each other that, as you have said, the European countries and EU itself has become this developed because of sagacious experience that it had after 2 world wars. And of course, it's a long story. It's a long trip. It's a long way. But every country wants to take as an example of European Union as a lessons and advices and ways how they can achieve the same goals, the same stability in their countries. So that's all we do. But I know that it's hard to do it because there's another mentality, another culture, another geographical place. That anyway, there is a percentage of information that can be absorbed and can be also used in the specific sphere and specific land. I really hope that we can do the same with European countries, even though we have another land, another people, another culture. And I really want to hear your opinion about that.
I'm not a real specialist of your region, but I'm a person that likes a lot of reading about history. And anybody who knows a bit about history, and we already discussed about it, let's say, and I will give you an example, 500 years ago, 600 years ago, most probably, you were in the middle of you were in the center of the world. This was the main highway for, from the point of view, let's say from the cultural point of view, from an economic point of view, trade, exchange of ideas, exchange of everything. At that time, 500 years ago, most probably my ancestors, they were cutting wood and fishing or hunting. Perhaps working in land. That's it. Their connection with the rest of the world was minimum. It's true that by chance, years later, the queen of part of Spain gave some money to an Italian crazy, went to America, or he was supposed to go to Japan and ended up in a place that at one point they call it America. And then my country started to have connections with that continent, and then after with the Asian continent through the Philippines, and at one point it became one of the biggest empires in the world. But that was by chance. That's changed a lot of the history. But believe me, like 600 years ago, you were the center of the world. From the trade, exchange of ideas, exchange of, let's say, you were the center of the civilization. If you could do it 600 years ago, I think that you can do it again somehow. It's difficult to be at the center of the world, right? Because now I think that one of the positive things of the world is that there are a lot of centers, not only one. And that is good for everybody, because just having one is not good. I mean, the colonialization and so on is a colonial past of Europe is a disaster. So, and it happened because at that time, somehow, we were the center of the world. Only. China was important, but it wasn't that important, unfortunately. And I think that now that there are different centers, you have a chance again to become an important region. But again, I think that how to build that depends really on you. I mean, it's not us. It's not others. I mean, you are surrounded by other big guys like China, Russia, Turkey, Iran, Pakistan, India. They are not that far away. Think you for yourselves and try to find your way. This is my recommendation. I mean, my humble recommendation.
People here, when they talk about problems, about any issues that we have here in Central Asian countries, we always compare with European countries and America, the top countries that are developed. We don't compare our country with India or China, even though they are also very developed and very strong countries. I don't know how, but our mentality is so set that we always compare with America or European countries. It's always Germany, France, and Italy. All the European countries. I don't know. That's really strange, I know, but this is how it works here.
Yeah, but, believe me, I mean, Germany, just to give you an example, and now everybody thinks about Germany as one of the strongest countries in the world, right? During the 90s, it wasn't. And we are talking about 30 years ago. And then when they were unified with the Democratic Republic of Germany, they also had a number of challenges to confront, but they made it. And they made it also because they found their way, and today is one of the strongest countries in the world from the economic point of view, but also because they did it this way. So, but in the 90s, they had still a lot of economic related issues to deal with. It wasn't a perfect, let's say, it's still not a perfect society because we are not a perfect society in the European Union, but there are always challenges. The challenge is you can forget about them and try to go around them, or you can confront them and look for solutions. I mean, my recommendation is always to try to confront the challenges and propose solutions, not to go around, because at the end, the challenge will remain there still.
Thank you for your speech, dear Mr. Asier.